what's up? It's your girl, Vida. Thank you for tuning in to Heaven with Vida. Today's show is sponsored by Nordic Sauna. At Nordic Sauna, they take a creative approach to all their saunas and spa designs. Their custom sauna shop will help you step in and feel your senses with perfect wellness every day. They believe in impairing a personal approach to all that they do. And they do more than just saunas and spa design for commercial and residential. Whether you're in the market for sauna, room, cold room, sea room, or experienced shower, Nordic Sauna is your best choice for designs, cutting edges, ideas. At Nordic Sauna, a quality home spa experience is both affordable and luxurious. Their highly trusted brand provides a unique multi-sensory custom experience with every design. I love my Nordic Sauna with the chrome therapy. I do it every other day, and it's the best. I say health is your greatest wealth from the inside out. If you're interested, reach them at sauna.com or info@saunas.com, or you can call them by 800-4SAUNAS. Okay, and today's show, we have a special guest all the way from the UK. You might have heard him on the show before, Habeeb Akande. Hi.
Hello, Vida. How are you?
I'm doing well. So this is the first time I'm meeting him because he's been on the show 2 other times before, and he's actually visiting. What are you doing out here?
A vacation and promotional work for my book, which came out earlier this year, Kunyaza, the Secret to Female Pleasures. I've got a couple of promotional spots in Miami. I was in Miami for a few days. I'm going back on Friday. And I've got a couple of radio interviews, and I've got an event on Sunday as well.
Nice. So are you liking LA better than Miami, or Miami better than LA?
If I'm honest, I prefer Miami.
Yeah, I love Miami.
Miami seems a bit more multicultural. I love the food. I had Honduras foods, Cuban foods, Mexican food. I think LA, I'll be honest, I wasn't that impressed with the walk of, what's it called again, the stars, the Hollywood walk.
The Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it would be much cleaner than it was, to be honest.
I know. That's what most people think. It's so funny because, Hollywood, it's all smoke and mirrors, right? And then you see it like on TV or, and you have this vision. And then when you get here, you're like, wait, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was in the wrong place, to be honest, because I came out and I was looking around. I was like, this can't be the Hollywood Walk of Fame and where the stars are. I was quite disappointed. But I'm pleased to be here, and I'm pleased again to see you actually in person, and to have an interesting chat, hopefully.
So maybe talk quick about your book, so if anyone's listening, and they can.
Yeah, so my latest book, like I mentioned, is called Kunyaza, The Secret to Female Pleasure. It's about a Rwandan sexual technique which helps women experience female ejaculation. It's something which has been practiced in Rwanda for over 150 years. And I'm trying to not only revive this tradition, because female ejaculation, particularly in the Western world, is seen as a myth, whereas in Rwanda and East Africa, it's a normal occurrence for a woman to not only experience female ejaculation, but orgasm. And the reason why I wanted to document this is because I want to not only eradicate the stigma in relation to female ejaculation, because it's perceived to be urine, unfortunately, in the West because of pornography and things like that, but also to highlight the contributions of many African sex educators who are speaking about the importance of female pleasure, and also to change attitudes, not only amongst women, but also most importantly amongst men, that women have a right to pleasure. And it's not that a woman has to experience ejaculation orgasm, but it's all about creating an environment or a culture where female pleasure is paramount, kind of thing, whereas unfortunately many Western cultures, everything is about the man, kind of thing, and the man pleasure is most important. So it's
like shame for women, right? It's like not talked about, and it's like
right. And again, like you've got a culture in parts of East Africa and parts of Central Africa where it's the opposite, where a man doesn't feel that he's a man unless he's been able to make his woman produce water, they call it, or to help her experience orgasm. And it's something which, when I read like Cosmopolitan magazines and a number of women magazines where they're speaking about like the sexual revolution as if this is something new, this has been practiced for hundreds of years in parts of the world, but many of us are not aware of it. And there's an American woman which I'm hopefully going to try and speak to later, if not this year, but maybe later in the year, called Angelica Lindsay Ali. She's called the Village Auntie, and she does a number of sex workshops focused and dedicated to women, and also trying to educate men about not only about Kunyaza but other sexual techniques. And it's not only about the technique itself, but it's about having the mindset where the man is putting the woman first. 'Cause I think that's very important. So that's basically what that book's about. And another one of my books, which is it's called Illuminating the Performance, African and Arab Erotology, which is basically about womanizing. It's a book written primarily for men under the age of 35 years old, and it's speaking about womanizing, speaking about the trials and tribulations of womanizing, something that you need to be aware of. And again, it's not a book which I'm encouraging men to womanize. It's exploring, why do men womanize? Why do men date multiple women? Some men, they do it because of the thrill of the chase. Some men, they do it because of insecurities. Some men, they do it because they want validation from their peers. So there's a number of reasons, and the reason why I wanted to speak about womanizing in particular, because you see a number of dating and relationships books, mainly written from a female perspective or from the perspective of a man who wants to be monogamous, which is good. But there are some men, for, again, different reasons, who want to have multiple women. And it's something which I think it's important that other men are highlighting. Okay, if you want to go down this path, you also have to be aware of some of the implications and consequences that can affect you later on in life, which I don't think many men think about while they're going through this period. And when you look at womanizing generally, it's something that a number of men have got this desire for when they're really young, and they've got a lot of testosterone, and then they kind of grow out of it. But unfortunately, for a number of those men, they might have, because maybe they've had a number of children within that time, or it's affected their career, they maybe regretted it. And it's something that you can imagine if you're a man, and I've got a number of friends who are in this predicament, who, they've had a womanizing past, or whether you want to call it a player or what have you. They've got a number of, is it baby mothers, you call it in America?
Yeah.
And, but because obviously they've got these number of these children, it's very difficult to say, I regret having these children. Do you understand? So if you want to advise the younger generation, and the men know this, so men know, okay, if you're going to do your thing, sleep around, whatever, be careful, make sure you're protected, make sure you obviously use a condom and things like that. But more importantly, which I think a lot of men we don't speak about, is the emotional state as well.
And also the energy, right?
And I was going to come to that, because it's something when you're, in your teens and early 20s, when you're having different relations, you're not thinking about, because I think that one of the beautiful things about women over men is that you're more in tune to your inner state, whereas with a lot of men, we develop that later on in life, that emotional intelligence. And it's something that if you're sleeping around with multiple people, like you said, you're exchanging energies. And it's something that, again, a lot of men, we're not aware of, or we don't really think and contemplate about until later on in life, kind of thing. So it's something that if you're aware of this, and it's not just say, don't do this, don't do that. It's like, okay, if you want to do this, by all means do that, but I'm going to give you all of the information, kind of thing, and then they can make a more informed decision. But someone just telling me, especially when I was relatively young, in my teens and 20s, and just wanted to do as many sleep around. I'll be honest, that's what my goal was.
I mean, that's most guys are.
But it was because I had older uncles and relatives that were telling me, and friends that were saying that, okay, if you want to do this, I'm not saying don't do it, because if you just say don't do it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what are some of the consequences, not only in terms of, like I said, STIs, but also the emotional and psychological damage that can come with that. And again, if you don't want that baggage, and they were showing me examples of people, then I realized, okay, it's not actually all that it's made up to be, kind of thing. So that's why I think it's important that as men, we have these honest and open discussions. And I think, not to say that women aren't able to have these conversations, but because a number of women, they haven't got a penis, to put it that way. Because there's a saying that when a man has an erection, he loses 2/3 of his intelligence, which is true. Which is true, because you can have a man, and this is something which many people don't really, it's not really spoken about. There are a number of successful, educated men, but in terms of their personal lives, they're terrible. They might have a number of women on the side and things like that. And there are a number of even psychologists and relationship experts. They can't understand it, because if you look at this person, until he's exposed, and there are a number of celebrities, I'm not going to name them, who've been exposed to, they've had multiple women, and people can't understand, you're very disciplined in this sphere of life, whereas when it comes to, controlling your urges, or you're not disciplined. Why is that? And it's about how can you reconcile between the two, and it's because some men, they need the thrill of the chase. And if they don't get it via maybe chasing women, it might be maybe through sports or maybe going to the gym, but as a man, and again, traditionally, we don't want to be domesticated. So even if you're making money, even if you're doing well in your career, you still need something. It's like a challenge. And if I'm honest with you, sometimes, and because some women, they think it's just about sex, or some sex therapists will say these men are sex addicts. And it's not that they're sex addicts, because if it was just about the sex, they'll sleep with a prostitute. But it's not about the sex. It's a challenge that they might have within themselves. Like, okay, this woman is taken, or this woman is with my friend, or with my, brother. that's more of a challenge, or this woman is very difficult to get. That's what I want her. It's not the sex itself. It's not even really about the woman. It's about the man. And then obviously there are some insecurities with that. The man has to maybe self-reflect and think, what is it that you're chasing? What is it that you want? And a lot of men, it's that they just want a thrill. And again, they want the chase, but how it manifests itself is differently for different men. But when it comes to with women, it's just something that they need to kind of sit down and look at themselves and just think, okay, why am I doing this? Because this type of behavior, and a lot of men realize this when they get older in life, you're disrupting other lives and families. And unfortunately, with a lot of men, we only come to this realization when we have a daughter or like or someone wants to do that to another female family member, and that's wrong. It's like, why do you need a daughter for you to appreciate or respect women? And is that because is it that you respect women, or is that because you respect the other man's quote unquote property? And I think that is the case, and it's something that a woman I was dating a few years ago, she pointed out to me. She said that you don't respect women. I said, what do you mean I don't? Of course I respect women. I respect you. The same, talk. I respect my mother, this, that, and the other. No, you don't. I said, why is that? She said, because remember before we was dating, because we was at the same place, I went to approach a girl. She was with someone, and I was still trying to pursue her. She said she wasn't interested. And I was still trying to pursue her. And then her boyfriend came, and then I said sorry to him, and I left. And then she gave me that as an example. She said, why is it you only left when the boyfriend turned up? I said, if you really respected the woman and respected her space, you'd have left her when she said she's got a boyfriend. So what you really respected was that man's quote-unquote property. And the penny didn't drop until she said it. But that was the case, to be honest. Or like when people say, something happens bad to a woman, and then they're like, oh, I wouldn't like that to happen to my daughter. What about the fact that it's happened to a human being? So unfortunately, with a lot of men, and I'm speaking about myself, and I'm a work in progress, I've questioned myself, do I actually respect women? Because obviously we're brought up in a society where we really respect men. We only respect the woman if she's attached, quote unquote, to a man that we respect. Do you understand? So if she's with a man that is, powerful, because we don't want any repercussions from that man, we won't approach that woman. Whereas if we know this woman is by herself and she hasn't got a protective net, she's fair game. And a lot of men, we understand that, we know that. And I'm not saying it's right, but it's about challenge, and it's something that, like I said, it's going to take a time. It's a cultural shift that needs to change, but I think it's something like it's each one teach one kind of thing. You just need to kind of have that self-reflection. But unfortunately, for a lot of men, we get this sense of reflection and awareness when we're like in our late 30s or 40s. And the problem by then is that we're now holier than thou, and we're speaking about the young men. So why are you behaving like this? Why are you disrespecting women? You was that same man disrespecting women when you was in your 20s. Don't act. I'm not to say that.
That's true.
That's not to say, again, that's not to say that these young men shouldn't be disrespecting women. But even in light with the whole Me Too movement, let's be honest, a lot of these men that are acting all holier than thou, because you've got daughters, because you don't want someone to disrespect your daughter like that, you was the same person that was doing that, or even worse, when you was in your 20s, when you had that power kind of thing. So it's like, how can we impact? That's why, like, again, the purpose of the book was I wanted to target younger men. And obviously, if I'm speaking to younger men, i.e. those that are under 35, I have to speak to them in a type of way which they can relate and they can understand.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, and I'm aware of this, because I've had some backlash with some women, because it's like the type of language, and it's very direct. You're objectifying women. I'm just saying, I'm not objectifying women. I'm speaking to men, which are my target audience, in a way that they can understand and communicate. Because if I am speaking about love and relationship and dating, men aren't interested in that, if I'm honest with you. So like, if I were to say, I'm going to Brazil, I'm going to Cuba, I'm going to Colombia, the messages that men will send me is that what the women like. Do you understand?
Yeah.
They understand the euphemism. If I were to say, I'm looking for love in Cuba, like, yeah, right, don't give me that.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So,
Yeah.
But that's for the younger men. I think when they get into, like I said, the late 30s and 40s, then their outlook is kind of different. But I just think for those of us who have, fortunate enough to reach like our late 30s, 40s, what have you, if we're trying to especially educate or illuminate the minds of those who are younger than us, we need to remember how they speak and how they think kind of thing, so we can obviously change their hearts and minds. So.
Yeah, I mean, because the only way is to speak to someone through experience, right? And to show that you were there at one point, and to show how, like, it's not the right way to go, and had steps to do something differently and change that, right?
Just wondering, like, in LA, what is the scene like in terms of how do men generally like approach women, and is it mainly through dating apps or?
Well, in this digital age that we live in, right? I was just talking to one of my friends today, and I was like, thank God I'm not a young girl, like, growing up in this digital age, because it's just so crazy out there. So dating for me, it's weird. Well, now I'm married, but I when I was going out, which wasn't a lot, I'm more of a homebody than going out. It was really hard because at that time I was already known, and I was very like, you know, why are you talking to me? Not because I think I'm better, but like, what is just because I've been taken advantage of, you know, like what's your, so I was more of a, like if someone would approach me, but in like the, in like clubs, I don't think that people do like date, like, well, that they meet their person there. Like I've never met someone at the club. And I think, especially in Hollywood, if a guy is probably spending money, you know, and he has the VIP room, he has all the girls there, you know, so you're competing with that. Doesn't mean that they're the right girls, but they're the better looking girls, you know. But now you have like all the dating apps like Bumble and Tinder, I think it's called, and Match.com, which my husband has a friend that was successful in meeting a match, and you know they're married and have kids now. I just think it's so hard because people like they could send you a message on your social media and they have closer access to you, but then you know I don't see, like, I don't know, because from my perspective, you know, I never used one of those apps, and I never did like Match.com or anything. It kind of had to be like around the people in the circle of people that I knew, or an introduction for me.
And what you mentioned earlier about the clubs, that if a man's got the money and the VIP, they'll have a lot of women that will flock to him. So if a woman is looking for love in Hollywood, like she wants to find a rich actor or something like that, how would she need to go to the VIP, you know, lounges?
No.
How would you?
I think that's like the worst thing. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people here are very materialistic, and they're opportunists. You know, like sometimes it could be someone that can probably get them somewhere, and they might not be looking for love, the girls. You know, they might be looking for an opportunity. They might be looking for whatever it is. But I think for women more than men, because women are more into, you know, getting married and having kids, right? Whereas men are not as much. You know, we're fed the whole, you get married, you have kids, and I don't think that model works anymore in today's world, in the digital world. Because for me, like, I'm super old school. I'm 45 years old. And for me, I didn't date for many years, you know, and it was really hard to, like, trust somebody. And the reason I ended up getting married was because I was friends first with my husband with no intentions of anything, and it kind of just grew into what we have. But other than that, like, you know, like for me, I was popular, so the guys were trying to, you know, whatever they can get from me, and it was more of a notch on their belt. But I just worked on myself, you know. Girls that are trying to look for love, I would say to them to work on themselves and to really not settle, you know, like what they want in a relationship, to be very specific, to know what they want. And I think when people just date or whatever, they just don't know, they have no clue, they haven't figured themselves out, and they're just dating in this world, which is crazy right now.
No, I agree entirely with that. I mean, wholeheartedly. I think even for men as well, they need to. I mean, it's even for, like with men who, I mean, generally who are not looking to settle down. I think, again, when they're relatively young, I think when you get onto, like I said, maybe mid-30s and over, even sleeping around, dating multiple women, it loses its allure, it loses its appeal.
Because it's empty.
It's empty because, but when you're relatively young and you're not,
You don't
connected,
care.
You don't care, and it's not because that you're. It's because you lack emotional intelligence. Whereas I think women have got that from a younger age. So we realise that all of those things that we're searching and we're chasing, like multiple women, it doesn't bring any pleasure. And that's why you find a lot of men who go down that spiral. They go to like ridiculous lengths in order to achieve a different level of stimulation, titillation, because this girl doesn't maybe satisfy me, then I want to move to the next one, and then I want to move to another woman who other my peers might think she's out of my league, just to show people that I've been able to conquer, so to speak, kind of thing. And then obviously you get to a period where you realise that I don't want to be the old man in the club. I don't want to be the only person speaking to all of these young women. And then it looks creeping and you realise that yourself, kind of thing. But I think with men, unfortunately, we get to that stage maybe later on than women. And but we also are kind of, I think, looking to settle down in love and companionship. But it's just that we reach that stage. Again, I'm generalising later on than the average woman, kind of thing. And it's just a case of how do you now? Okay, if you're a man in your mid-30s or mid-40s, you've been around the block, but you then also have some trust issues. That's a problem. So if you've just been around, and again, it's not all women, but unfortunately, a lot of men we will generalise. If you've been around a number of, shall I say, fast women, right? Then you're going to think every woman is like that, and then you're going to have trust issues that every woman that you interact with, you think you can't leave her, or she can't do anything by herself because she's going to get off with another famous or wealthy person because that's the type of woman you've moved around, kind of thing. So I think. And it's quite difficult for men to kind of come out their comfort zone and meet women who are not that way inclined. But like you said, it's probably maybe like, it's their inner circle, the people, because generally people date within their inner circle, like with close friends or people that they kind of know. So I see it a lot more and more, because obviously I'm getting on in my mid-30s, but I'm just still wondering, because there's no easy answer, but what is the way out? Because a lot of men, we are kind of looking to settle down, but then because we've got so much trust issues, we think that every woman we come across, or because a woman is confident, because a woman is sexy, we equate that with her being promiscuous, which that's wrong.
See, that's it
wrong.
with me, like based on like what I look like and like my whole career, people have always put me in a different category from where I am. Like it's so far-fetched from who I am as a person. And it took for someone to know me as a friend to really understand me. And then that's why it happened for me. So it is trust, but I think what I've learned, like for instance, for me, I had abandonment issues, right? And all my relationships were based on that. And now looking back, I could see that. And once I fixed that, it was like all of a sudden, my husband appeared. And I think that's why I said work on yourself. I think we live in a time right now that women and men have the opportunity to be whatever they want to be, right? So instead of working like towards a relationship, work on something that whether a relationship is there or not, you can still stand, and to know yourself really good and know what you want and don't want, and don't settle for anything. Like I never would settle at all, and I would still not settle in today's world. I think those are the most important things, and to be fine with just being on your own. I think that's when it happens for you. If you're out there searching for it, it's harder, and you might have to meet someone through like a friend or like a mutual circle. And just, I would say, like, if you really like, if a guy is really interested in that, like he's looking for that, then take sex out of the equation, because eventually it will happen, right? Learn how to, hold that thing in and use it for your own spiritual growth. And then just get to know someone, because that's the only way you're going to get to build trust in a relationship. Not from like, if a woman's attractive and she has things going for her, and you're going to feel, oh, I can't trust this woman, or, and I think the best way for anyone, in my experience, would be to just work on yourself. Like whether a man is there or a woman for a guy, you can still like live life and be who you want to be. You know, like you don't need the companion, but it is good to have the companion. I would say that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something very important when you said the word need. You don't need a companion, because I think too many people, again, it goes both ways for men and women, but I think mainly with women, because there's more pressure on women to settle down, be married, even have a child, as if that defines you. And I think that's problematic, because as a man, generally we're not defined by our relationship, whereas with a number of women, and it happens even amongst women themselves, they are defined by whether it's a wife being a wife or being a mother. And you hear women saying that, now that I'm in love, or now that I'm married, or now that I'm a mother, now I've got a purpose in life. And I always look at that like, I'm happy for you, but that's quite a problematic statement, because it's as if, was you an incomplete person until you had this other person? Then if that was the case, then you're not complete, and this is a contradictory term in itself.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's something, like you said, I think it's important to work on yourself and know that, yes, it's good to have a companion if you want one, but you don't need a companion. Because when you say that you need something, then that's suggesting that there's a lack within you. And I think that's something which I think a number of people, we need to kind of overcome. And like you mentioned about, you can, especially in this day and age, you can be what you want to be. I think one thing that we don't really emphasize on in terms of, if you were to ask them, what do you want to be? People don't think about happy.
I know.
If you were to say, what do you want to be? They might say an actress, a film star, a famous a writer, a football player, but that doesn't equate to happiness. They might say even rich. They might say, married, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be happy. But if you were to say, do you want to be happy? Do you want to be content? Do you want to be satisfied? That's what but you don't know how that might manifest itself. And I think that's important. So if we're searching, I think that's something which a lot of the people from the past, and whether you look at a lot of the traditional religions, that's what they were seeking. That inner state, that inner peace, that happiness, whatever you want to call it. But that's what they were seeking. Whereas in this day and age, it's very materialistic. We're seeking these material things, thinking it's going to give us happiness or contentment. But when we get these things, all of a sudden we realize, I'm still not fulfilled. I'm still not satisfied. I'm still not happy. What do I do? And that's really dangerous. So it's actually a blessing that many of us don't reach our goals, because if we did reach our goals, then you realize, okay, I've reached the mountaintop. Where to now? And it's downhill. And I think that's something which, again, I don't think we have enough conversation to really think about. We have conversations a lot about like mental health when people, unfortunately, are in dire states. But what about those who are working on their path because of their values? Something is incorrect. I would say it's bad values, because they value materialistic things over character, personality, honesty, integrity. All of these things which you control is more important than being popular. Because if someone is to be popular, the reason why I would say that's problematic is because your goal is based in other people's hands. Whereas if you said, I wanted to be happy, that's in your hands. You're responsible for your happiness. And even if something happened, if someone went through a breakup, yes, that person might be you could say that you feel a certain type of way. You can blame them to a point, but going forward, you're in control, you're in charge of your happiness. And that's something that if that's your primary goal in life, however, all of the things that come to you, they're like challenges that you can overcome. But if you're seeking like popularity, fame, success, which is in other people's hands, you're never really going to be happy. And that's something that if you do achieve that quote unquote level of success, and then you're still feeling empty, then you're in a very dire state. So that's something which I think
that happened to me. Really? When I was saying as a little girl I was going to be a famous model and everything, and I got there, and I was like, this is so empty. And that's how I went into my spiritual journey, but which means I had to fall, and then go all the way down to go all the way back up. And that is the case. When people, from that point on, I always say, I just want to be happy and healthy, so I feel like you can attract things into your life that will bring you happiness. And only you know what brings you happiness if you took the time to know yourself, right? And the things that make you happy. Because sometimes people, they do things, but they don't really want to do it. They just want to please somebody else. And then that's why they're never fulfilled. Or people do it because they were feeling insecure, and they want to feel like, but at any moment that can be taken away, from somebody else. And then what do you have? if that's what you build yourself on. So happiness is the key for people out there that want to manifest good things in their life. Just think about, I just want to be happy. And then when it shows up for you, just embrace it and, live it. Just be in that love. But the thing is that they don't teach people self-love in school, and I think that's important to do. And parents can't teach that to kids because they don't have that, and it wasn't taught to them. So they can only teach them what they know. But then you do have the parents that do have the self-love. Like my parents, my mom gives a lot of love, and she take the shirt off her back for you, but she has no self-love, so she couldn't teach me that. And my dad, the same thing. They're amazing human beings, but they have no self-love for themselves. They think of everybody else before them. And that's a beautiful trait to have, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to make sure your cup is full of love that you can then pour to other people, than opposed to being empty and you trying to pour something, the last drop, into somebody else.
Wow, that's profound. Would you say that self-love, it sounds like you need to be somewhat selfish, which I think is a good thing because generally it's got a negative connotation. But like you said, in order to help others, you need to kind of work on yourself and know what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, how I've understood that is that you need to be a bit selfish at times because you can't always be thinking about other people, because if you're thinking about other people, they might consume your time. You can't have enough time to think about yourself. But when you say selfish, if I were to say selfish, people might think it's negative, but that's the thing. Is that one and the same? Would you say, like, you have to?
No, I know people would say that, but I would say, like, build so much self-love that then you can give to other people. Okay. But if you're not there, and you don't have a lot of self-love, because then you got to think, do I have self-love? Am I, like, eating things that are not good for me? Am I watching things that are not good for me? Am I entertaining things that are not good? Am I speaking badly of people? These are not, like, self-love kind of things, like things that you would tolerate. I think it all comes with, like, it's all about, like, having integrity and having morals and all those things, because those are, like, your character of a person, right? And that's when I say about self-love, like, build yourself on those things and those principles, and then anything else doesn't matter.
Yeah. I agree. There's something when you're saying that, I'm thinking about when I was I think it was in my late teens, and I was working in a department store. I'm not going to expose myself and say too much what we did, but some of the activities that I was getting involved with wasn't correct, right, in this department store. And so obviously I had a regular job, but I was making my money outside, right? Mm-hmm. And the job was just a front, so my parents would know where I'm getting my money from, even though I was making my money doing other stuff which wasn't legal. And one of my colleagues, he said to me, it's payday next week. Are you looking forward to your payday? Now, obviously, because I made more money outside of work than my regular job, I looked at him and I was thinking, what's wrong with you? Like, we're getting peanuts. Mm-hmm. But because I'll be honest, my heart was so black at that time. To me, whether I made the money from the job, like legitimately or illegitimately, money was money. Mm-hmm. And that's something that now when I look back and I think about it, I can look back and be like, wow, I couldn't even tell the difference. Because some people, if you're doing something which is, like, not good for yourself, even if, like, someone's going to tell you about maybe, like, self-love or what have you, they won't be able to recognize it at that time because they can't differentiate between the two because they're so selfish. So, like, the importance of being honest, the importance of having integrity. If you're someone that's, like, extremely arrogant or extremely just about yourself, you wouldn't understand the importance of it until you maybe spend some time, like you said, to work on yourself, and you can see, actually, this is actually good for my soul, this isn't good for my spirit, kind of thing. So that's something which I do want to go back and, like, the importance of, like, working on yourself and self-love is important. But I just wanted to caveat by that. There's some people who might be thinking, it doesn't mean it. Like, money's money. The same way with guys when it comes to women. Some men are like, sex is sex. It doesn't matter how I get it. If I lie, cheat, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But
their end goal is the sex.
Right, exactly. But then, like they're saying, there's no honor amongst thieves. There's honor even amongst players, so to speak. So there's some men who are like womanizers who might say the nice things, but they won't lie, or they might not say, I love you in order to sleep with a woman. But then there are some men who've got no scruples whatsoever. They'll say whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. So it's something that even amongst men, we've got different levels of, like, kind of different rules of the game, so to speak. So I just think if it's something that you kind of think about yourself, is this something that I would like for someone to do to my daughter or my mother, or someone to do that to myself? You've got the answer. But it takes a while to get to that level where you can think, actually, do you know what? this isn't right because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. But when your heart is really black because you've been doing so many bad things, it's difficult to differentiate between the two kind of things.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I think, basically we're not given a blueprint on life, right? And how life works and what to do. But like for my own experiences, like when you have self-love, how like some people when they're like in a relationship for a long time or they're married for a long time and then something happens where they're no longer in that relationship, whether the partner passed away or you guys just broke up, whatever, people's world falls apart. And I'm talking about like whether someone's there or not your world to fall apart because you build so much foundation within yourself that, it's okay, sad, and you could go through all the emotional, low points, sad, angry, and all that to get to then healing and then maybe, considering to get into another relationship or something like that. But that's what I think, like when I think about like self-love is like not self-love like, I'm the shit and, screw you, whatever. No, you treat everybody still like a human being. But self-love meaning like you fill your heart with love for yourself. So then you can give it to others.
Yeah.
I would say. I don't know. That's what I think. I'm just glad that I'm not like in my teens or in my early 20s in this whole like digital world of dating.
I mean, so am I. And not only that, the game has changed because a lot of, like, when I speak to my younger friends and cousins, they tell me that it's common you have to send nudes. Like, That's the way to, like, you don't even need to say hello, hi, you just send nudes to many women, and obviously whoever responds, then you just pursue those women. And I said to like my younger.
Is that what the guys are doing?
That's what they do. They send dick pics. They call it.
I know. I've got a lot of dick pics
and
before.
whoever responds, and there are some women, because I'll be honest, some women, obviously, a lot of women would find that distasteful, but there are some women who
actually go for it,
and that's why some guys will continue. But for me, I'm like like when you get older, you're gonna look back and regret that and things like that. But at that, because it's normalized as well, that's why I'm not too harsh on them, because if I was a teenager now, I probably would do the same. As much as I look at it and I'm horrified, it's because I'm in my mid-30s. But if I was a teenager and that's what everyone was doing, I probably would do it as well, and especially if there was some results that was coming from it, and they're not thinking about the consequences. The same way when people tweet or say ridiculous things on social media, and then later on in life they might, these old tweets resurface and they might lose a job opportunity. But they're not thinking about that when they're like tweeting, I think, when they're like their teens or early 20s kind of thing. So I just think that for the younger generation, although I'm glad I'm not a teenager in this digital age, I still think it's a duty for people like us who maybe know a bit better to kind of try and help them and navigate their way through this digital age. They can come out of it, with in one piece, because it is very difficult and the world is unforgiving, especially because now everything that you're saying and doing and recording online is documented and you can't go back against it. It's there for life kind of thing. So whereas before, like there were a lot of escapades that I got up to or my friends got up to, which I'll be honest, obviously now when I look back at it, it's wrong. And if I had a camera, I would have recorded it. But now when I look back on it, it was very bad. But I'm just worried. I'm worried about the younger generation because they're not thinking about the consequences. So if you're involved in I don't know, like something that happened recently in the UK where there was a number of guys in college who they ran a train on a woman. So I had an orgy, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, I mean, those two.
now, again, it was all consensual. Actually, somewhat, because she was intoxicated, so it was difficult to know whether she consented 100% or not. They filmed it. Now, obviously, when she saw that, she was horrified, and then she's accused a couple of the men of rape. And it's a complete mess. And now they're trying to prove, that she consented to it because there's other videos they've had of her, and it's just a complete mess. And one of them now is going to affect them going forward in terms of a job and things like that. So it's something which, when you're young, and again, I'm not going to act all like holier than thou, like how could they do that? Because that's something that many of us did when we were younger. But there's no evidence for it. So then we can act like, how could you do that? But that's what I think it's about, letting the younger generation know that, okay, we know that you're wild and you want to have a good time, but just be aware of the consequences and have these examples to show them that this is some of the implications, these are the consequences if you carry this path out. So, and it's about education. That's
what it is. I think education is the most important thing, and letting people know, because, see, this is what I think. Like, people watch movies, right? And they see people want to be gangsters, people want to be, like the gigolo, and people want to be that, right? When it's a movie, the actors are not paying for the consequences. They may be paying for it through the movie, whatever, and then that's it. It's done. So it's like, think about it. If you don't know who you are, then you're easily programmable. If you're easily programmable, that means you'll be influenced by everything you see and hear. So then what are you seeing and hearing that would dictate who you're going to be and act, right?
Yeah.
Because people can only act from that point. Because we're all beautiful human beings at the end of the day. If we were taught like beautiful things, then things would be beautiful. But we live in a world that it's showing every side of life. And based on like whatever you went through in your life, because they say when a baby is in the mother's stomach until they're 7 years old, whatever they hear and see, they're creating who they are based on those experiences. So if it wasn't a positive experience, then their choices won't be as positive. They'll make many mistakes, and then the universe, God, will give you opportunities to see your mistakes and give you an opportunity to either learn from it or keep repeating it at a tougher level each time.
So it's a very difficult job for parents. It's even harder than it was before, because I think they need to be actively involved in their children's life, like I said, from a really young age, because for what they've been exposed to on their phone and in their school, it's worrying times. But in saying that, I still try to be optimistic and positive, because the same way we look back and be like, our time was, maybe you could say, easier. I'm sure our parents' generation, they probably say the same, and I think we kind of turned out all right.
Yeah.
So I just think I always try and be positive and be like, okay, whilst there's a lot of difficulties, and I just think that, but they're able to reach so many people and affect so many people, and the same way they can be exposed and programmed by dark forces, shall we say. They can also be exposed to positive forces, so they can curate their social media, so they're only seeing positive things.
Yeah.
And always, like, there's some people who are like, there's like a victim outreach culture or victimization. People just want to see, oh, this happened, and whatever, it's because of racism, sexism, and they just want outcry and and just follow people who are just going to complain about certain things. And there are other people they've created whoever they're following, so just seeing positive messages. So they're both living in the same age, the same digital age, but their two experiences are totally different. So it's up to you. Whereas previously, you didn't have control of what was on the TV, you didn't have control of what was being taught. Whereas now, you're empowered from a relatively young age. So as much as it's a scary time, it's a wondrous time, because they can captivate audiences, they can enlighten people more than people could have done in our generation. So if I'm just looking at it like, you've got the tools, rather than blaming the tools, you are empowered, how are you going to use it? Then maybe they just might need some guidance from those who may be a bit more older and experienced to help them pick the right people to kind of follow, so to speak.
Yeah, to create your tribe around you, right? You're only as powerful as your tribe around you. And if you have a shitty tribe around you, then it's like, stuff is going to be shitty, like what you experience. And I think that is a very important thing to do, because we have Netflix, so you can pick and choose the things you want to watch. So it's so interesting, because like me and my husband, we have different tastes in movies. And when we log in with mine, the Netflix gives you different options. When we log on in his, it gives him different options. So it's like, even at that point, you have to be mindful of the things that you're ingesting, not just food-wise, just knowledge. I mean, I got rid of my TV in 2011, and I didn't have a TV, and I just read books. And I started watching a TV last year when I moved in with my husband because he had a TV. And I think for me, when I started watching TV again, it was so weird. It was the weirdest experience. Things look so much faker than they did before, and just things were so much more obvious than they were before. And so, like, I used to not like to read, and when I read all those books, I mean, I've been reading since 2007. Like, I was going crazy on reading books, because I was just seeking knowledge, and then getting online and researching. And that is, for whatever thought you have, there's so many websites for that thought that would be like whatever your idea is. Like, you can find websites that will say, yeah, your idea is right, or then you can find the opposite. If I'm telling you, no, that's not how life is, and you're telling me, but your search would be, because you're looking for the truth, right? Whereas a person that's not looking for the truth, because it's saying, no, the truth is this, they're very limited, then their truth will only be that, what they say.
What was your experience when you first came to Hollywood? Like, when you saw Hollywood for what it was? Because from your aspiration to be a model and actress, and then when you came here, how did that?
It was pretty bad. I was like, well, then if I have to sell my soul, then that's not going to happen, and then working on like projects that made sense and that you didn't have to sell your soul for, that, creating, and that's the whole thing, like, I was willing to sleep on the floor, not have money, not have luxury, because I was not willing to sell my soul for it, than to be having to wake up and like look at myself.
Is that still the same now? Like, do you think for not all people, but for many people, in order to make it, do they need to like compromise with their values or sell their soul to be successful? Is that?
I mean, that's what I've seen, and that I experience, and what I see in a lot of people. But then I think it all goes then to your power, your own self-worth, right? And really believing in yourself and your dream. And like, if you're like, okay, well, I'm this person, and I will not, under any circumstances, be anything less than that. And the universe, God will send you tests to see if that's, and it could come at like your hardest times, like when you're super struggling, and then all of a sudden something little shiny diamond comes, and it's there to test you, I believe. And I think life is just a series of tests. And I can't, I'm still in the field, I'm still working on my stuff, and I will continue. For a while, I had a bad taste in my mouth, and now I'm starting to be like, I mean, I don't care about the entertainment business, but I do want to do the things that I want to do and be able to create a big platform, so then I can help the younger generation, just sharing my experience and just putting positivity out there, because there's so much negativity going on. So that's how I want to use like my platform.
I definitely think you're doing that, because obviously, like, even with this show, and it's independent from what I understand as well. So you're putting it out, so you're putting out what you want, you're inviting the guests that you want, and you're reaching the hearts and minds of people, not only in the US. And I always tell people from America that there are many people like in Europe and the UK that are familiar with your work and inspired by your work. So it's something that your purpose and your calling, I'm sure as much as the young Vida wanted to be an actress and model, and it's bigger than that.
It's bigger.
So that's why I just want to, I said it to you before, but I want to say it again, just please continue doing what you're doing. I know that you're inspiring people. I know that you might receive some negative feedback, but not to concentrate on that, which I'm sure you're not going to do. So just to continue doing what you're doing. I know that the more people that are benefiting from you might not necessarily tell you that, but it's important, I think, for people that are aware of that, just to let people know, because we all need kind of reminders now and again, just to let people know that what you're doing is good.
You're on the right path.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true, because it's easy for people to criticize. It's easy for someone to put a negative comment, and there's a lot of times that's because it's coming from a place of insecurity. And even as human beings, we can receive 100 good positive messages and then one negative, and we hone in on that. And that's something as well that even as human beings, we need to ask the question: why am I concentrating on that negative comment? Because whatever I'm doing, it's not for that person. That's the way I look at it. So when I receive negative feedback, it's not for that person. So why am I bothered by it? If my concern is I want everyone to like it, then that's why?
Then that's like an ego kind of, right?
Exactly, that's an ego thing. So if I want to please everybody, that's a problem. But if I know that there's some people that will benefit from it, then that's what I'm serving. But if some people, like I said, who don't understand the message, or they're not ready to understand it, or just don't get it, I'm not concerned with what they say. And I just think it's important that other people are doing good work. We kind of let other people know, kind of thing that. So I'm appreciative of you inviting me on your platform a number of times, which you didn't have to do. And I'm appreciative of your work.
No, I'm appreciative of your time and your knowledge.
No, seriously, and I think it's important to voice that vocally. I can say that, or I can think that, to myself. I can say it privately. I think it's important that people know, and I'm, vocally, verbally saying that I appreciate your work, and just to make sure you continue doing what you're doing, because there are people, like I said, not only in the States, but outside, who appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes, like you go through some roadblocks and stuff like that, but I think that's all to learn from, right? And I wish I was this way, back then, but I think I had to go through that experience to probably help out a lot of people.
You needed to go through that, because they're going to be hopefully chapters in your book.
Yes,
That's the way I look at it. So, any negative thing that's happened is it's an experience. As long as, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So anything that's happened, you can learn from it. And, even if you don't learn from it, other people can learn from it. So that's what I look at it. So always try and look at the positive in every outcome and every situation.
Yes. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I think we're almost about time. We have another 7 minutes. So if you want to just talk about your stuff again and where they can find you. And he's a really cool guy, and he's very knowledgeable. And I hope you start doing seminars out here too. That would be great. I've
done a couple. I was in Philadelphia last year, and I went to Michigan as well. But I'm trying not to do too many seminars and workshops. The reason being is that I do not want to be the face of what I'm doing, kind of thing. So even though I want to highlight the contribution of female sexual educators, or speak about female sexuality in a positive way, or dating but from an honest and open perspective, I don't want to be the face, because when you've got a face, if they shut that person down because of his own failings, then the whole movement, so to speak, can fall, so to speak. So I like the fact that people know my book more than myself.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I do realise that sometimes it's good for people to see, because when they see this young-looking black guy writing books, it's then I can do that. So I know I'm inspiring others, especially black people, people thinking that they can't write to write. So I want more people to write and tell their own stories, because I think it's important that we hear these different, narratives, kind of thing. So that's why I'm struggling. So I'm still not there yet. I want to do more seminars, but then at the same time, I'm intentionally holding back, because, like I said, I would like my work to speak for itself, but at the same time, it needs to be pushed, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, building, you have how many books now?
6. I've got 6 books.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so 6 books. So my first book is called Illuminating the Darkness, Blacks and North Africans in Islam. That's looking at the issue of racism in Islamic history. And then I wrote Illuminating the Difference, Black, White and Brown Women. And that's, again, looking at the perception of beauty, particularly amongst men, and why some men view certain women from not only different backgrounds but skin complexions more attractive than others, whether it's down to the media, whether it's something that's down to their society, and just exploring that from a male perspective. Then I wrote Illuminating the Difference, which I spoke a little bit earlier, which is talking about womanizing and relationships from a male perspective. And then the follow-up book was A Taste of Honey, Sexuality and Erotology in Islam. That's looking at sexuality in the Arab world from the 14th century, up until recent times. And it's you could say, the Muslim Kama Sutra. That's what that book's about. And then I wrote Illuminating the Blackness, Blacks and African Muslims in Brazil, which is looking at, and I'm also making a documentary, which should have came out 2 years ago. But it's looking at the history of West African Muslims in Salvador, in northeastern Brazil. So I went to Brazil, I've been about 7 times in the last few years. I'm just documenting like the history of like the black people and how they're not just speaking about slavery, but the positive movements that they've done in Brazil. I'm actually thinking about going to Cuba soon because I want to learn a little bit about the Yoruba. So I'm originally from Nigeria, and understand that there are a number of the enslaved Africans were from my tribe called the Yoruba, and in some parts of Cuba it's still preserved.
Yes.
So I might.
You should go.
Yeah.
You will be. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing thing.
So I'm thinking of going.
See, in Cuba, like everyone is the same. Like there's no like racism, and that's a beautiful part. And music unites everybody, and it's, you know, those beats, the African beats, that is just like invokes the spirit.
And I think it's important. So like, and that's what struck me with like in Brazil, because race relations or how they view it is very different to Europe or the United States. And I think the problem is that people from America or people from the UK, for example, we've got our own understandings about like white, black, and this and the other, when it doesn't necessarily.